Welcome to the Gary Sinise Foundation podcast. Today, I have the distinct honor of hosting two of New York City's bravest, FDNY Lieutenants Mike Hyland and Danny Prince.
Great honor to be here.
Both Mike and Danny stood as pillars of strength and bravery in the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks, exemplifying the courage and commitment to their community that has earned the deep respect of the American people. Throughout the challenges, their experiences on that fateful day and in the days that followed have profoundly shaped their ongoing dedication to service. As this episode is released on September 11th, we begin by taking time to honor and remember the toll it took on the first responder community. So Mike and Danny, take us back to that day, that fateful day, 23 years ago.
Well, actually, I was sleeping, and it was early in the morning, and my wife came upstairs, and she said, "Your sister's on the phone." She said, "A plane hit the World Trade Center. Put the TV on." So I had a TV in the bedroom, and I put it on. I was like, "Oh my God!" And next thing you know, the phone was ringing from the firehouse, and they were doing a total recall to get in. Everybody's coming in, everybody off duty and all that. So just trying to race in from, I live out in Long Island, not too far from JFK, and I was working around the Coney Island area at the time as a lieutenant. And just responding on the Belt Parkway was crazy. You can see all the smoke and everything. And lo and behold, I see a guy in the next lane is probationary fireman that was new to my firehouse. So we couldn't move on the Belt Parkway, and I jumped off on the service road, and we started taking the conduit and ricocheting around to get in quick. And this young guy, he followed me all the way into the firehouse. And that's the thing they tell you. You go to the firehouse, get your gear, or go to the nearest firehouse. And I was a pretty big guy. I said, well, if I go to the local one, I'm not going to fit into the gear. Mm-hmm. Let me get to the firehouse. And they already was sending buses to meet the guys at the firehouse. And we went up to the battalion nearby in Coney Island. And there they gave you a chief assigned 5 guys to you, and we tried to get air bottles and tools. We didn't know what the heck we were going to go through, but it was just the whole thing of getting in. Mm-hmm. And then we didn't even, the next step, we drove in with a couple of buses, but we had to stop in Williamsburg first, which is part of Brooklyn. And who was relocated there was my old firehouse where I got promoted from, Ladder 120. And the guys there, and one of my buddies comes up to me, and he right away, he said, Danny's sir got killed. I'm on a fire department football team, and Danny was on the team with us like 14 years. He said, "How do you know Danny got killed?" And he said he got hit by a jumper out the window as they were going in. And his guys took him, engine 216, they ended up getting his body into an ambulance and taking him away. And those couple of the guys jumped in, and by the time the other guys got in towards the building, the tower, one of the towers, the first tower came down. So those guys ended up living because Danny.
Oh my goodness!
And Danny was still alive. They still had a heartbeat on him. He was a tremendous guy. But that's how the day started. I mean, it was just crazy. And then from there, we finally got into the city. It was just chaos. We were like trying to get flashlights and going into a neighborhood trying to. It really wasn't, it was actually like a Hasidic neighborhood. There really wasn't much storefronts or anything, So we tried to get a couple of portable flashlights, and we figured we'd be working all night and come back, and then they ended up sending us into the city. And we waited online. All the officers were waiting online for assignments. So as you got in, they would tell you, get a generator, try to do this, get down to 10 engine, 10 truck, you're going to do this and that. And then when I was there, Building 7 came down. And it was like a total whiteout. But right before that, I had a buddy who I used to play ball with and work. This guy, Stevie Russack, he just passed too. But he told me they forced a door on a storefront nearby, and if anything happens, go there. And I had told my guys, go there if something happens. So when the building came down, everybody had to jump off the line. And now I go to the storefront, and I see my guys, and they're saying, the probate's not here. The same guy who was following me on the Belt Parkway.
Oh, no.
And now I'm out on the sidewalk waiting, and I see him running. Oh. And I just grabbed him, and I pulled him in. I was kidding you. Stay with us. And then once it settled down, all the dust and everything, we went back out in line. And then we got our assignment. And then, then we got back in. But, we had a lot of stuff on the buses. And we go back to the buses left. And a lot of the stuff we had, air bottles and tools, they were all gone. It's like, oh, no. Then we had to start over. And then we found an abandoned rig. It was like a hurricane rig that they only would put out, in emergencies. So we found that, and we found some equipment and air bottles and some tools, and then we did a thing. We got a generator, and we got up to the roof of the firehouse, and then after that, we're just, working all day, all night, and then losing guys during the day who can't see no more, pick up different guys, and pretty much went till like 5 in the morning, but, just trying to end up climbing up on it was just the pile. Like a billy goat trying to get up. Guys are falling down, and you got to be careful trying to get up. But there was actually pockets of fire burning.
Oh my goodness.
Up there still, and we ended up going down. It's just crazy because I used to do security on the side. All the firemen do different things, and I seen an ESU cop who worked at the security company, and they had a hose line, and they say, "Hey, you guys know what to do with this."
Right.
And so we jumped back, go down the pit, and we were putting out some fire and stuff, and then just up there, and then you're getting blinded, and we're trying to conserve our air, couldn't see, and then we sort of found a way out, another way to get off the pile that wasn't as steep, and it was sort of around the bend, and then, then I told the chiefs there's another way to get up that's a little easier for the guys and everything, but it was just, a chaotic, Dante's Inferno, I always say.
Yeah.
It's just a crazy scene, and then who's laying all over the firehouses, and, guys all beat up, exhausted, and, just trying to get a couple hours sleep that night. I went into the bunk room of 10 and 10, and, there wasn't any bunk. I was like, well, I'll go into the officers' room, and I ended up sleeping in the bed of the guy, lieutenant from 10 Engine, who passed that day, and, got a couple hours sleep, and something hit the building, the firehouse, and something fell off a roof, and I was like, I had gotten sick that night. I mean, there was no running water. I was throwing up in the bathrooms because I was just taking like the bottles off of the hot dog wagons and stuff, and then like chug-a-lugging like pineapple juice, anything. When the people were coming with water, it was so great, and then you communicate. The phones weren't working. Only one guy's phone, different lines weren't working, and I finally got to like call home early, touch base with my wife, and I called my parents and let them know, that I was safe. But it was just, some scene,
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It is.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I was in Minnesota at the time. My brother was a Vietnam veteran who got contacted with Agent Orange, and they were going to put him in a nursing home. I was there on the 10th, and I was supposed to work the 11th.
Oh my goodness.
And my crew that worked that day, 6 of them, 2 of them died, and 4 of them were injured, never came back to work. So my brother would always say, I saved your life, or I saved your injuries, and I said, yes, you did, and it was a blessing. And when I was in the morning getting up, I was supposed to come back to New York, and naturally that hit.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, this is a terrorist attack. I knew it wasn't a small plane. Originally they were saying a small plane hit the Trade Center, and I knew it wasn't, and I said, this is a terrorist attack. Because I remember in '93, there was 2 individuals, Rick Riscola and Ronnie Buca, who was a fire marshal, and they constantly said that they're coming back, they're coming back. And that's the first thing that popped in my head when I saw that. My sister-in-law woke up and she came, Danny, put on the TV. I said, I'm watching it. And I says, this is we're under attack. And my wife and my daughter were both in the city that day. So, and I couldn't get in touch with them. Everything was down. And I felt like Forrest Gump. I wanted to run back. I wanted to run back to New York. It was so upsetting in the morning, just waiting. And our chaplain happened to call me and tell me that Debbie, my wife, and Heather were okay.
Oh, good.
He was able to get in touch with them, and they couldn't get in touch with me, so he tried and he did. But he says, Danny, we lost a lot of people. He says, get back as soon as you can. And I started going back and forth to the airport, and everything was shut down. And I met some Minnesota firefighters who said that they had a way of getting back, and they would take me back. And we wound up coming back Thursday. And I was going to take them, and they wanted to help. So I got back to my firehouse in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, which is the safety battalion. I got them taken care of where they were able to do something. And I said, listen, I got to go. I'm going back. So we got in the chief's car, a spare that we had. We loaded it up with masks, equipment, and we went over there. And when I pulled in with them, I looked, and everything I saw on the news or the newspaper looked fake. This was just unreal to believe the sight. I wasn't prepared to see what it really looked like. Nothing what you saw in the paper, in the news. You had to be there to see it and smell it. And it was just something that I'll never forget. And then to find out that 2 of my guys died and 4 others, they were banged up bad in the hospital, and it was heartbreaking. And I got with the guys that were still around with us, and we were working and looking, and we wanted to find the 2 guys. We were hoping that we were going to find people. And I felt like a search dog. Yeah. That you wanted to keep going and going and going, and you were so disappointed. You know, a failure, nothing, and it broke your heart. It broke your heart, and I mean, we dug and looked and dug and looked. We were on the pile. We had bucket brigades taking them out, and you'd say, "Mate, there's a void. Maybe look," but nothing. And you look at 110-story building, 2 of them, and you couldn't find a phone, a file cabinet, a chair. Everything was dust and smoke and still burning. It was just amazing, absolutely amazing.
It's incredible to hear your first-person memories of this, and I think that a lot of people experienced it on the news. And just kind of, but it's still unimaginable. And just to know that you were there, in the aftermath and responding, and never gave up hope, as hard as that.
No, you kept looking and looking.
Yeah, we were like 24 on, 24 off, 24 on. So I didn't go home for, I don't know how many, 3 or 4 days.
We just back and forth. We stayed in the firehouse, went right back again. And I couldn't put anything in a timeline. It's just a blur of you were there, you were home, you were there, you were out. And it just continued and continued.
We actually found, digging a couple of days. I mean, if you found body parts sometimes, it was from the airlines. And, we found a hand with a ring on it.
Oh, gosh.
It was like, but everything was solemn when we did find somebody. Everybody would stop, and if you found somebody found a turnout coat, some kind of piece of a fire department, and they'd come down with the flag and drape, and it was a special process.
Dignified transfer, and they'd take it, put it in an ambulance, and they would take it to the morgue.
Like everybody came together. Everybody, when you're driving down the West Side Highway and
people
everybody's cheering you on and waving, and then like you say, the civilians they were grabbing, helping with the buckets, and, when they could, if they can get close, everybody wanted to help and pitch in, and
they were walking around with food, trays of hamburgers and water and
the
soda.
Boats, and, that was the first water on the fire from the boats. They were relaying water from the Hudson.
Dust that was on everything. All you're drinking water that had dust and everything. People were doing it out of the blessing of their heart. They wanted to help, and they felt like they were doing something, contributing. So, and you were so thirsty and hungry, you didn't mind it. That's probably why a lot of people are coming down with all these cancers.
And then meet my buddy in the middle of the night, Mike Moran, from 3 Truck. He lost his brother, and I think 11 guys from Ladder 3, and
it's unbelievable.
I ran up to him, in the middle of 3 in the morning, where it was, and he says, Mike, I can't find my brother. I'm looking for my brother. I found my brother John. And he was the guy at the concert from New York that Paul McCartney did. And he was a great guy, and they brought him up, and he was the guy who told Osama bin Laden, "You can kiss my royal Irish ass."
Oh my
If you remember that, they were playing that all over. And Mike, a great guy who played football with, worked with him, and then he had transferred to Manhattan. But yeah, a lot of different memories coming up. Just us talking, about this and that night.
Well,
you see so many fathers down there looking for their sons.
Yeah.
Vigiano, one of them, but Oberg, Petroselli, there's just so many.
Yeah.
And they got the name, the fathers. Look, and they would be there, they'd meet, they'd be looking for their sons.
Guys like was it Bill Beckworth?
Yeah.
And they have a street renaming for him that's just coming up. I just seen that on the department orders, and he's the guy that President Bush had the bullhorn and pulled him up. He was retired, fine. The guy was like maybe 63 at the time. And we were nice. We met him down in Washington, and he was down visiting the troops and stuff like that too. He was a real gentleman.
Oh,
and it was great that him and Bush actually became pals.
Yeah. So, answering the call to serve your community, you often prepare mentally and physically for tragedy. You are often the first flash of hope in the moments of darkness in people's lives. So what inspired you, what motivated you to join the FDNY?
I joined the FDNY. I actually wanted to be a police officer.
Okay.
And like everybody in New York, you take civil service tests, and the fire department called me first, and I said, well, the clock will start ticking, I'll take it. And I got on the fire department, and I says, this is my job. This is what I want. And I got called for the police, and I says, too late. I love what I'm doing.
Bye.
Yes. So I just cherish being a firefighter. You never go to work. It's an enjoyment, and I have so many great memories. There are heartaches, a lot of them, but the rewards outdo the bad parts.
Right.
And that's the thing. You're out helping people every day. And
There's no doubt.
That's what's important.
Yeah. You do that every day.
Yep. That's what's all important.
How about you, Mike?
Well, same thing with Danny. I wanted to be a police officer. My father was a lieutenant on the NYPD, and even in college, I worked at a bar. I was a big guy who was a bouncer in a bar up at Brockport, where I was a college student, and we had a mug club, and that was Mike the Cop on my mug. That was my nickname. But the same thing with Danny. You take the test. My father was sending me to. My older brother was a fireman in Rescue 1, and my father was sending the applications for the different jobs, and I had actually turned down the transit police. I said, well, I'm going to go on the MIT. At that time, the transit was a separate test, the subways and all that, to be a subway cop. Well, I said, I didn't want to go for a couple of months there and then switch to the PD, the NYPD, and then everything got called at the same time, and I was getting called off 2 lists, an NYPD, an old one, a new one, fire department tests, so ended up going in the fire department maybe 3 weeks before the NYPD. And then I kept myself on the list. My father said, you never know, Mike, the heights, you climb in ladders, you may not like it, and then after about 3 months or 6 months, a sergeant called me, you want to be a cop or a fireman, somebody else who can take the job. And I love like you say, once you get on the fire department, you just love it. I said, yes, I had to come down and, sign myself off the list, And, but found a home at the fire department.
That's it. It's like family. You found your family.
That's for sure.
Doesn't end.
Yep. So, as you know, this podcast is in honor of Gary's son, Mac, who we lost early 2024. And he was the biggest fan of all of you at the FDNY. He loved you guys so much. And part of his job responsibilities while he was working here at the Gary Sinise Foundation is giving a tour of the office and the education center. And he found such great pride in sharing about John Vigiano. So can you share with me about Captain John Vigiano?
Captain Vig, he was a legend on the fire department, and he was a lieutenant nearby me in Ladder 103, and then he went to Rescue 2, and he had a great career there. And he became a captain of Ladder 176, and that was my battalion. So that's where they got to know him. And he was always teaching. You got detailed over. You would learn so much from him. And he was, real gentleman, a Marine. I remember, he was great with the with car auto extrications, and I remember, having one, and, I was muscling something, and all of a sudden I get a tap on my shoulder. I said, son, hold on, go this way, do this way, and okay, yes, it was always a teaching experience, and after a job, that's where you learn a lot,
Yeah.
You had a fire, and you would talk about what happened, and, make sure you got the skylight, and don't forget the skylight over the bulkhead, which is the top of the roof, and, oh yeah, no, that's another 20% of the smoke clearer. You have to take that, and
Oh, wow.
he was always teaching, and then really got to know him over the years with Gary and all that, and it was just a special
Amazing.
person.
He would, like I said, you'd be finished with the fire, and he said, okay, let's go force some doors. And you'd practice, because the damage is done, so you're not going to do any more damage. And he was always training, and just such a down-to-earth person.
Right.
He wasn't overbearing. He was, trying to help you to become the best you could be. And he would never want you to get hurt, and he would always want you to be safe and come home safe. But a wonderful guy. And he had a bout with cancer early on, and they thought that was going to be the end of his career, and he says, no way, not going to beat me. And he beat it, and he came back, and God bless him, he had a great career.
Beautiful.
A great career.
Yeah. Can you tell us about what happened?
His two sons, that was just incredible. Two sons, one a cop and one a fireman. To lose both of them on 9/11.
He's only two children.
That was it. Devastating for him and Jan. And they were such wonderful parents, and he had such deep religious beliefs that it got him through it.
One thing that John said that made a profound impact on Gary, and it was a quote that he said where he, I believe more good came from that day than
Yes.
evil. And here's a man who lost both of his sons, his only children. What did he mean by that?
He saw the country getting together. He saw the love that was bonded, and that's something that we didn't see.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, we don't see it now either. But I'm just hoping and praying that it doesn't take another disaster for that to come back again.
Yeah. It's I feel like it's the second biggest thing that we noticed after that day was we were truly the United States
Yes.
of America.
Yeah.
And it was
Brought everybody together. Races,
did.
religions, everything. There was,
Yep.
politics were out the window. And
Yeah.
And when the
rebuilt
troops
country.
started coming back
Yeah.
for injuries, John was the first one. Let's mobilize and let's start going down.
Yeah.
See what they need. And trip after trip to Walter Reed, John would make sure we'd get the crew, bring down stuff for them, bring down toiletries, phone cards, iPads, whatever they needed, and then
Yeah.
start up a chain. And with Gary getting involved,
Yeah.
back
Well,
and forth.
So on the other side of the country, Gary's personal mission of serving was growing. And on his episode of the podcast, one of the quotes that really stands out to me is that he says is service is a great healer. And so we were all heartbroken after 9/11. And so he raised his hand to start volunteering for the USO. And it was on his first USO trip that it was divine intervention struck, and he was on the C-130, and that's where he sat next to John.
Yes.
And so we actually have a clip of John's interview when he was sharing about meeting Gary for the first time.
We flew in, nobody knew anybody. Then we jump on a bus, and as we're going to the gate, I'm sitting next to this guy with a USO cap on, and glasses, a T-shirt. He looked like one of your guys. I figured he was a baggage handler like I was. He wasn't a star. And I just said, I'm John. He said, I'm Gary. He said, where you from? He's Chicago. I said, I'm from New York. And it was just two men just talking. And then when we got in the tent, and GIs are meeting the celebrities, I hear the officer go, I want to introduce so-and-so, and the GI, yeah. He says, now I'm going to introduce Lieutenant Dan. And that caught my attention, because I knew who Lieutenant Dan was. I look over, the glasses were off, the doofus cap was off, and I says, that's the guy on the bus, Gary Sinise.
So from that meeting, friendship blossomed. and John invited Gary to go to the firehouse to meet with the guys and have a true firehouse experience, and and that's where he came and visited in New York.
I came in one day into the firehouse on the tour, and I looked on the chalkboard, and it said, Lieutenant Dan is coming for dinner.
Of course.
I looked at the date. I said, well, that's my tour. That's great. I won't make a mutual. I'll make sure I'm working that day. And meanwhile, everybody came in anyway to meet Gary.
Of course.
Gary Sinise is coming to the firehouse. But it was great, and he came with Mr. Vig, and he brought some of his friends and retired firefighters, and we gave Gary the tour, and we had a great meal, a chicken cutlet parmesan meal, and got to give Gary a tour of the firehouse, and we had still kept the lockers of the guys who passed, and showing Gary, because the kids like to come up and see their dad and the photos, and so I gave him a hat from the firehouse, and I was so proud to see Gary wearing the Ladder 132 hat like on an aircraft carrier. But he got right in with the pitter-patter. We had a lot of fun at the meal. Guys always breaking chops and everything at the meal. So Gary got right in. They tried to set up. They tried to. But, and then John Plan, who was the captain, he was, hey, Gary, we'll send you some stuff, hats and shirts, and, Gary, give us your email and addresses. And then we, sort of stayed in touch, and
ever since
things happened. We had a great bond.
It blossomed from there.
So here's this Hollywood star. Lieutenant Dan is visiting, and you guys, he's having a great time taking photos, but you guys didn't stop from playing around and playing a little prank on him, I believe.
Oh, with we had him dressed up in the gear and all that, and then we had a call for a guy fell down an elevator shaft. Unfortunately, he was drunk, but it was only like a story. So we had a lower rope go down. But Gary, they were in the hallway, and the real guys are going to work. And then guys from, I think, a rescue company came up, and they're looking. And Gary's, he's standing out there, no helmet. This guy's standing with a hook, and this guy has something else. And they're like, who are these guys? What's going on here? Meanwhile, we have the guy tied up. We're pulling him out of the shaft. But,
he was a part of the department that
day. And the guys, they're funny, We had a guy in the house, and they used to say he had a long face like a horse.
Oh, no.
And they used to kid around, and they had hay and oats and stuff, and they had these big metal bowls. And then they would go on their radio and do it like a horse was coming on the radio.
No.
And so this guy, he was a big chop break, and he's singing Gary a little bit, and Gary gets some hay and oats and throws the bowl at him and says, I think your meal is, I think you're up, man. Why don't you have a little more to eat, And he got right in. So
Didn't
Gary's like, all the guys love Gary right there.
That's it.
That was a huge family.
And he did it, he just fit right in.
From that day, Gary's support of our first responders only grew. It was from that moment he knew. He was part of the family. And so can you share with us about the Brooklyn Wall, which is where you met him?
Oh, that was incredible. It was just amazing. Now, the wall originally was for Brooklyn firefighters.
Right.
You had to work or live in Brooklyn, and then we had a family that says, well, my son was from Brooklyn, and my other son who died was from Manhattan. How can I have one son on the wall and not the other son? And Gary was getting all this, ingesting it, and he says, why don't we just do a concert and raise the money and get this thing accomplished? And as always, Gary came through, and that's what he did. And now there's 417 first responders who were murdered that day that are on that wall. And a good part of all of that is thank God for Gary. And now the families have a place to go. A lot of them, there are no remains.
Right.
So it is a place for them to go and really console themselves. And it's a beautiful place. It's like the Monsignor would say, it's a place of joy. you can go down there and remember life, remember the memories, and it helps them so much.
Yeah.
And that was an important part.
That was
A couple of characters on the way.
July 14th, 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of days before, I was actually going to shop into Home Depot, and my cell phone rings, and it was Gary, and they were shooting some scenes for CSI New York. And he said, Mike, what are you doing? Like, I forget what day it was, but I got a couple of days free. I'd love to see the Brooklyn Wall, because we were telling about the Brooklyn Wall at the firehouse that day. And I said, yeah, we'll set something up. And John Plant, at the time, the captain, he became a chief, and he was in the 2nd Battalion in Lower Manhattan. So we met him at the firehouse, and we had a fire family transport van. And then John gave us a little escort to the Brooklyn Bridge, and we went to Coney Island. And Sol Moglin, the founder of the Brooklyn Wall, the civilian, whose idea was, to get the wall going. And like I said, Danny was saying, we got the tour of the firehouse. There was a few of us, and at the end he said, how about if I do a concert and we get all the first responders on the wall, the guys.
Of course.
And I looked at Sol looked at me, I'm like, concert, really? Yeah, okay.
He's always thinking
2
of
years
a way.
after that, the wall got finished, but it was just, Gary contributed, him and Maura, they contributed so much of their own money to it, and and then the Journal sold a lot of stuff, and we had CBS and CSI New York, and everybody was dancing. My son was maybe 18, and my daughter was 14. Sophie, Gary's daughter, was there, and John Plant's young son. And it was funny, one of the usherettes grabbed my son. They're out there dancing. He's dancing with the usherette. I said, wow, look at that. Everybody's going. Mrs. Vigiano's there. They put everybody's up dancing. And bring all the ladies up first. And everybody, it was just spectacular.
I love it.
What a wonderful show.
It was a great
memory.
time.
Yeah.
Great time.
And the wall actually inspired Gary in one of the episodes of CSI New York.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. 68 degrees at 7:30 a.m. on this partly cloudy Sunday. The date is September 11th, 2011.
It was great episode.
Yeah.
Great
Yes,
episode.
because
Showed a lot.
his character, Detective Mac Taylor, which is
Right.
in honor of Mac and his brother-in-law, and he was a 9/11 family member survivor. And his wife on the show had passed away from 9/11, and he wanted to make sure that he honored the first responders and included you all.
Yeah, that was great. Great
was
day.
honored,
And
Gary-
the Vig was in it.
Gary had given me a call, and so who are we going to pick? And all right, so we're going through, we had our crew guys always work, so everybody's going to be on. We put our dress uniforms on, and then they had, some of the actors were in the scenes in the beginning, but then they were picking them out. We see like a white headband on this guy, like, we don't have that, Some of the extras, they still wanted to be on the show. No, now it's the real first responders. And Mr. Vigiano came in dress uniform, and but it was great, And then we picked out some people, on the wall. It's 14 by 14, granite engraved. So we, picked out certain people to make sure, like the Haskell brothers and the Vigiano brothers, and
Timmy Stackpole.
Yeah, Danny Sarah, and guys lost PD and FD families, but it was great. Everybody was up there, Sol and his wife, and Tara Stackpole and the kids were up there, but it was a wonderful day in Coney Island.
Yeah.
Timmy, who passed, his famous thing was the greatest high you can get in life is helping someone.
Oh, I love that.
That just service.
Yep. Well, there is no doubt that all of us at the Gary Sinise Foundation, and especially Gary, know that you all, your first responders, you truly do go above and beyond for your first responder communities. And so can you share with us a little bit about the Lieutenant Dan Van?
Oh, yes.
Lieutenant Dan
The first
Van.
one. What was the 2007?
Yeah.
Chevy
Big Suburban.
Tahoe. I remember families, they were so honored when they were going for treatment. These are firefighters that are coming down with 9/11 illnesses.
Okay.
And they were taking them back and forth. And I remember his wife, Madeline, she was just so in awe. She says, you don't know what this does for me and my family. Taking my husband in this, a van that was donated by Gary Sinise. to show the love that he has. She says, I'm overwhelmed that he would even think of helping out and doing this. She said, it just makes the ride that much more enjoyable. She said the whole time it was just comforting. And he's donated 2 other vans since then.
Yeah, well,
just
the mileages go up, and then we have to retire Lieutenant Dan Van, and Gary said, well, it's time for get another one. So we're on the 3rd Lieutenant Dan Van.
Well,
But the first one was at the concert, the weekend of the concert.
Yeah.
Sophie was there, and we had Monsignor Benedict
John,
that,
God bless him.
blessed it, and this, one of the photos is here in the office. When we had the blessing.
You're in it.
Yeah. On my head.
Yeah.
Every time he was coming up with more stuff and more money, it's like, holy.
You guys are
And
important.
he's still donating to the Fire Family Transport, which is a great thing.
And so many other first responder programs.
Yeah, we're
Absolutely.
all 100% volunteer. Nobody gets paid, and the vehicles are maintained by the city. We have our own that we insure, and so a lot of the guys, like Danny was saying, coming down with different cancers and stuff, and so we're getting them to the hospitals, and then the guys who were hurt on line of duty stuff. So they have the fire assistance unit running those vans. So we have 30 vans, and we have another 5 of our own van.
Oh.
So
You're
There's
like a
more
lifeline.
guys that have died since 9/11 than on 9/11. I believe.
Yeah,
the-
we
it's
passed it. Yeah.
361 we're up to, I believe. And there's just a couple of thousand that are still suffering and being transported back and forth for cancer treatment. And all good work
Yes,
for
absolutely.
all great people.
Absolutely. And your support doesn't stop. It extends beyond the first responder community. You guys are also great supporters of our wounded heroes, and you guys often go to Walter Reed and Bethesda. Why is that important?
Well, again, like I said, John Vigiano, once the troops started coming back, he mustered us and said, we got to go down, and they picked up the fight from us. Now we got to pick it up for them. And
I love that.
Yeah, he was so involved with that, and we'd go down. I mean, I've gone down. Sometimes I've gone down twice a week, and it's a 4-hour drive.
That is
Sometimes it could be longer.
unstoppable.
Oh my
But
goodness.
we had once, it was 15 hours.
Oh,
We went down in a snowstorm. It took 15 hours to go down. And
we
but
do an annual
yeah.
Super Bowl party every year. We were doing that for years. And a Christmas party, I play Santa Claus. And then now we do a playoff party, but we actually go to Fort Belvoir now, because that's the biggest USO in the country, and we go there now. So, we go down there and we bring food and T-shirts and hats and whatever, toiletries and
whatever they need.
But when the guys were really hurting,
they had no
when
family.
the war really started, when all the injuries, and that's when it was, we'd go in our uniforms, and when we go to all the hotel room, to the hospital
Wards.
rooms, and, meet some of the families and the loved ones, and spend a little time, and, these guys are like telling us, I joined the service because of you guys.
Of course
You
it
guys
is.
are my inspiration, so, when the wars escalated, and these guys, amputees and brain injuries, I mean, that's what was the reward for us to go down and just give them a little, say, hey, we're behind you, country's behind you.
A lot of them didn't have family members to come in right away.
Right.
I mean, they were from other parts of West Coast or whatever, and it was hard for them to get in. They had other children, or they had jobs, they couldn't get off, and it was tough. So we would be the correspondents, and Gary would I'd call me and say, listen, so-and-so, visit this, and then we'd see somebody that just came in, the chaplain that was there, Brother David. He would give me a list of names of guys that are just coming in, and I would transfer that to Gary, and we'd go correspond back and forth, and it was just
And then you
it was
watch
just
Gary's memorial show every year,
Yep.
great. Yeah,
and then you would see some of the patients, some of the injured vets there, and like recuperating and everything. It was like tears to your eyes every year. I got to watch, the Memorial Day concert, and it's just
amazing.
Seeing familiar
to
faces.
see them, and then when the actors reenact the families' roles, and we know those families, it really hits home. Like we were there, we talked to those parents.
Louis
and,
Avila.
Yeah.
He's paralyzed in a wheelchair. Lewis, Gary built the house for him.
Right.
And,
Captain Lewis Avila,
him and Claudia, and the whole family. But he's you see him almost every year.
Every year, yeah.
And he
Like you
has
said,
a
God
house
bless
they built in
America.
Chevy Chase. Oh, we met him again going down, and I had a neighbor say to me, "It takes you 4 hours to go there. You spend a couple hours and 4 hours to come back." He says, "Why do you do that?" And I says, "Come with me once, and you'll never ask that question again."
Yeah.
And that's just it's so rewarding to meet these individuals and what they sacrifice for us, for our freedom. Because freedom isn't free, and people don't understand that. I think it's less than 1% of the population serves. And because of them, we have the freedom we have, but we don't appreciate it. I know Gary does.
Absolutely. You two do too.
Yeah, well, like I said, we got veterans in the family. My father was a World War II vet. My brother Pat was a Green Beret in Vietnam, 68, 69. So, I wanted to join when I was going to get into high school, but the war had ended. It was pretty much, well, all right, then I'll go to college and play football. I won't go to boot camp. But like I say, always, always proud of, my family's, my mother, her 3 brothers were in the service, 4 brothers were in the service. One died on maneuvers, unfortunately, on a boat. They capsized, they all had full gear, and it's just, but they're all different branches, and my father's and his 2 brothers were in the service. So everybody, that was the thing to do then, just...
Great pride.
Danny,
You served.
Danny was a vet, Navy,
Navy and
and
Coast
Coast
Guard.
Guard.
And I have his father's hat.
Yeah,
A retired hat he gave me. When his father passed away, he gave me his hat.
Yeah.
Retired, Coast Guard served and proud.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. USS Corpus Christi.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, you guys also help us and support us during our missions for the Gary Sinise Foundation, and oftentimes for the families of our fallen. And you're not often alone. You bring a pal of yours.
Yes. A very good pal of mine.
A very good pal of yours.
And they won't want to get in the picture with him.
Yes. Yeah, they love it. But he can't be there, but he's as close as can be.
It's a spitting image, actually.
Yes.
It's Flat Gary.
Flat Gary. He's been on the airlines and American Airlines. I give him a shout out.
Every time.
They take great care of him. He
They
goes
do.
first class in baggage.
That's right.
He only flies first
one
class.
on the plane, and we get him the first one off.
Oh my gosh, do we want to show him, or we're going to show him
Come
here?
on in, Gary.
Come on in.
Hey.
Woo-hoo. Here he is.
Black Gary's in town.
So dapper.
He
I
is-
like the
he is-
rose, yes.
I know, wait, we need to put him right next to the logo, just like that.
Yeah.
I think that's perfect.
There he is.
So he's been all over.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, tell me about his adventures.
So he's been all over. He's been in California, Florida,
Wow.
Pittsburgh.
World traveler.
Well, yes, Colorado. He's been on boats. We had the families go out on dinner cruises, and Gary was with them, and they just love standing by next door and taking pictures, and
Yeah.
it's just amazing, and to see the smiles and the happiness it brings.
Yeah.
And we have to bubble wrap him all the time to get him on the plane. It looks like he's in a spacesuit.
He looked like he's carrying saying Danny, it looked like he's carrying a surfboard walking
Yeah.
through, like a thin surfboard.
Oh, he's been on a surfboard. We have a picture of
He's
him
been on a surfboard?
in Rockaway. We have a picture of him with the wounded soldiers doing the surfboard.
Oh my
He's been at
goodness.
luau's, and it's just amazing, all the things that he attends, and it's all such great fun. And again, everybody enjoys it, and have a picture next to Gary, and
Yeah.
they know he can't be there, but he's in there, and his heart is with them.
That's exactly
So
it.
this is the next best thing we can do.
I love that. And he was recently with you guys at the Brooklyn Wall with the families who are fallen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that was great. They all got around, and in the picture, a beautiful picture, the wall in the background, really heartwarming.
Yep, he was there with you. He was
Yes.
there in spirit. I love the
We
way that
got
you say
pictures
that.
of Monsignor, our chaplain. He did healing masses for Mac. at his parish, and we had Flat Gary at the church
Yep.
during the healing masses.
Brooklyn.
He was Monsignor was so tight with Gary, and Gary was really tight with him, and they really had a strong religious bond, and I know it helped him and Maura a lot.
Absolutely.
For what they were going through.
Absolutely.
But, and God bless the Monsignor. He's passed. He did over 700 funerals, and he kept saying, "My time will be coming," because he was down at ground zero for so much. And it finally took its toll on him. But he fought right to the end, and he had tremendous faith, and that's what we all need.
Absolutely. Well, you two are remarkable. Pals of mine.
Pals of mine, that's it.
Thank you so much for joining me on the Gary Sinise Foundation podcast.
Thanks for having us.
It's been, I'm so grateful that you guys shared your stories,
Yeah.
especially in honor of September 11th too. So thank you so much for being here.
Hope they can understand the Brooklynese.
They will, don't worry, they will.
Thank Gary for all the programs.
Everything.
Soaring Valor was one of them that my
Yes,
dad
your
was
dad.
fortunate enough to go on at 92 years old, at 94. And got to go to World War II Museum and included us. And always
Snowball
remember-
Express.
Yeah, I mean, there's all these good programs.
Yep.
And building the homes, you know.
You've been a part of it.
The smart homes going for these guys. Yeah, concerts. Yeah, we did
And continue.
getting in.
Won't stop.
And continue.
That's it. Lieutenant Danban does a lot of good.
Yes.
You guys do a lot of good.
We got a great team.
We do. We're all one
I'm
big
blessed.
team.
That's it.
Gary has a great team here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Nothing but happiness.
Exactly. Just spreading love.
That's it. God bless Mac.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in honor of him, we do, as we do with every episode, we let Mac close out the show.
You've been listening to GSF Podcast, the official podcast of the Gary Sinise Foundation. If you'd like to find out more about what the foundation is up to, or if you'd like to make a donation, please visit GarySiniseFoundation.org. Make sure to tune in next time for more interviews, and thanks for joining us.